Hey guys, this is Lady Phoenix and I'm here because I want to show you these items. Why did I want to show you these items? I lost it there for a minute. I forgot. Okay, well, I'm sure it'll come back to me. But I'm going to go ahead and put them here. Oh, wait a second. I've got a text here from someone. Let's see. It's not that important, so I will take care of this text later. But let me take this book out of here. That's in my way. Actually, this is a pretty good book I've been reading. It's starting a web-based business. Maybe I should look into those things and see some of these. Well, never mind. I'll do that later. Oh, what is this here? Oops, I just dropped something. What is this here? Oh, this is my reminder that my pictures are ready. I should probably go get these. ADHD, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. Yeah, I remembered. But anyhow, this shell reminds me of how ADHD is kind of like it makes me think of the beach. And having ADHD, getting back to the shell, the reason why I have this shell is because it reminds me of the ocean, and it reminds me that when you're at the beach, it kind of sometimes tends to get a little foggy. And when I see this, it helps me remind myself that it's kind of the way they feel, the way they're thinking, or the way their brain is thinking. And the reason why I have the little turtle here and the bouncy ball is because these two things are opposite, right? This one is a slow turtle. This one is a fast bouncy ball. So I'll tell you what I mean in a little bit. So the first thing is, what is ADHD that I want to talk to you guys about? Well, ADHD is an abbreviation, and it stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Now, I don't like to call it a disorder per se, but that's what it's called, Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So it can change the diagnosis, but I just wanted to tell you that I don't like that. But in a sense, it is a disorder. So what kind of disorder? Well, according to some of the psychologists and the experts, it's a neurobiological disorder. It's not the result of bad parenting. That is not what this is. Contrary to what many of you may think, that this is just a bad case, ADHD is a case of bad parenting. Not true at all. Okay? I have researched a lot about it, and pretty much I think a lot of the diseases or the disorders or the conditions happen to have a lot of genetic factors involved in it. And this happens to be one of them. They're saying, all the experts are saying, that this has to do with genetic factors. There's the inattentive type, meaning that, sorry about the noise out there, guys. That's distracted me already. Ironically talking about inattention. So it's difficult for kids with inattentive type of ADHD to pay attention. They have trouble focusing, especially on boring tasks. And I know you'll probably say, well, that happens to a lot of us, but with these kids, it's different, okay? These kids they can be engaged, and some parents have told me, my kid can play video games for hours, but come time to do homework or any certain task in class, they have the hardest time doing that. And a task that would take them, like maybe a homework assignment, like a 20-minute assignment of reading, will take them about 2 hours and a half. Yes, and that's no joke. So that's what I mean by inattentive. The other symptoms, inattention type is one of them. Kids with ADHD also have the symptoms of impulsivity. And that means things like they lack self-control. Their behaviors are more extreme than typical kids. So, for example, they will say what's on their mind. They don't think about the consequences to their actions. And whatever their behaviors or whatever comes to their mind, then those are they're going to say what they're thinking, even if it's inappropriate. Then we come to the hyperactivity part, which is another symptom. And hyperactivity is kind of like, I don't have a little Tigger here, but if you know Winnie the Pooh, and mostly everybody does, you have a character in there named Tigger. And Tigger is up and down, like this bouncy ball. That's why I got this bouncy ball. So this is where the bouncy ball comes in. You know, you bounce it, and it's just bouncing up and down, just like Tigger does. Okay, hyper all the time, on the go. Seems like if they're driven by a motor. And sometimes they even do it in bed. When it's bedtime, they lay down, everything's shut off, the lights are off, you know, they're in bed covered up, and it's like a minute of silence, and you think they're going to go to sleep, right? And it could be even so late. It could be like, I don't know, 2 hours or an hour past their bedtime. And they'll sit there, they'll lay down there for like a couple seconds, it's quiet. And all of a sudden, you start hearing them tossing and turning, twitching, twirling, whatever it is, on the bed. And they stop for a second, but then it starts up again in the next 30 seconds or so. So that's what hyperactivity looks like. Then the next symptom is that they're easily bored. As I mentioned before, they can do tasks like playing video games for hours, but they can't do something simple like a 20-minute assignment. So it's not a lack of motivation though, guys. A lot of people that don't understand ADHD, and it's a very commonly misunderstood condition, and it is a real condition. But a lot of people that don't understand, I think personally that it's because they don't have a child with ADHD. It's because maybe they don't have anybody, themselves included, or any member of their families. They have never dealt with ADHD. So they simply, on the outside surface, they see it as what they call a bad parenting, or these kids are just brats, you know, and that's not the case at all, guys. So I would encourage you, you know, before you say comments like that, that you research and, you know, maybe have some kind of, if you have access to a person with ADHD, see what the world is like, their world is like, before you go and judge them and think because they have bad parents, or, you know, because whatever the reasons are, they're brats, the kids are brats, whatever. Because I do a lot of reading, and this is one of the things that I want to encourage you, is to do a lot of research, reading, talking to people, going to groups and things like that, so that you can learn. If you do happen to have a child with ADHD, or maybe you have it yourself, then I would strongly encourage that, because, you know, I think that knowledge is power, and you need to be aware of what's going on. So anyway, in these brain image studies, which I happen to get distracted away from, which illustrates my point, but brain imaging studies, it has shown that there are certain areas involved, which is the prefrontal cortex. So the frontal lobes of the brain are actually, their activity is showing decreased. So it's decreased activity shown in the frontal lobes of your brain is what's happening. And that part of the brain, of the area there, is what's really giving you that inhibition. And by inhibition, I mean that, you know, if you know something's inappropriate, but it's the truth, you know, I don't know, like, let's pick an example, like your clothes is ugly. And you know, in the regular part of the brain, or the regular person that doesn't have ADHD, I shouldn't say regular, I don't like that word because there's no such thing, but in the people without ADHD, normally, you know, that you wouldn't say to a person, your clothes looks horrible, I don't like it, it's an ugly dress, an ugly shirt, whatever. So that's what I mean by inhibition. You're able to control what you are going to say, And so kids with ADHD or people with ADHD don't have that. So a lot of times it's really hard for them to control their words of what they're going to say, but also most importantly their behaviors. So that's why they act the way they do, because they don't have this the inhibition. And another big part they don't have is a working memory. So they're not able to remember what they are going to be doing. So they know what they're supposed to be doing, but they're not able to do it. It's kind of confusing, I know. But here is where the brain portion that I'm trying to explain is. Because it's almost like their brain has slowed down. So it's processing very slow. And so we have the turtle here, which reminds us that this is how the brain is going, like a turtle, very slow. This is where my little turtle comes in. But then you have the bouncy ball. So there's an executive function. That means that the area of the brain of this executive function part that we're supposed to have, it's very slow, like a turtle. So the brain activity, when they have these images that they test you for, the brain is going slow. It's underactive, if you will. So you're like, well, how can it be underactive, but then the kid is hyperactive? Well, because the brain is going to take a lot longer to process that information, and that working memory is not going to be there as quick as other people would without ADHD. So the bouncy ball just helps you remember that if you don't have the inhibition because you're going slow, the brain is a little bit slow. Not to say that you're mentally challenged, because these people are not mentally challenged. That's different. But their activity, their brain activity is slower. So therefore, they don't have the inhibition to stop jumping up and down like a bouncy ball. So that's what I was trying to illustrate at that point. So sorry if I confuse you, but that's the best analogy I can give you, the best way to compare us with these objects, that the brain is underactive, but so that inhibition that is supposed to block some of the stimulation of kids jumping up and down or knowing what to, or refraining from saying something inappropriate is not there. So, when they don't have the inhibition process to control their movements and sit still, they're going to be jumping up and down. Even though their brain is underreactive, their bodies are hyperactive. So that's the best way I can put it. Sorry if I confused you, but that's the best way I can know how to do it, or try to teach you or tell you without sounding so technical, because there's tons of information out there, and when I started going through all that, I was just overwhelmed because I didn't, not that you're not smart or anything, or that I'm not smart, but it's very overwhelming information. So that's the best way I can put it. And the reason why I have the yo-yo is just to remind myself or remind you that you have your ups and downs, just like a yo-yo. So you will have good days and you'll have bad days, just like with any other condition, just like with any person that doesn't have any condition. So you have to remind yourself of those things. So anyway, I hope this helps, and I made this video a little bit too long already, but let me know what you guys think, and your comments, and also if you have any questions, any further questions, anything else more specific you'd like to know about ADHD. And there are a lot of treatment options that they're finding, and new things keep coming up all the time, but some of the treatment options can range anywhere from medications, which I am just totally against at this point, but not to discourage anybody from that, because that's your own decision. I'm not advocating for no medicine or for medicine, but also alternative medicine therapies. There's psychosocial treatments, and also educational interventions. So Those are things that could use that the people could use, and the earlier you start, the better, because as with any condition, the sooner you start treatment, the better outcome is going to be when they become adults. And because this condition of ADHD not only affects them now that they're young and sitting still, but it's going to impact their whole lives. You know, their relationships, in school, at work, even when they become parents themselves. So yeah, so those are some of the things that I wanted to let you know about ADHD. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, please let me know. If you request any videos or any more specific information, please do let me know. Thank you so much for watching. This is Lady Phoenix, and I'll catch you in my next video. Thank you.